$5 to get $200 in bonus bet and see why. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in New Jersey. Terms and conditions apply.
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check you have a full tank of gas first before road tripping through the desert.
Empty? Seriously? Maybe I can walk.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds.
Maybe I can't.
You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
97.3 ESPN has teamed up with Seize the Deal for incredible weekly offers from some fantastic local restaurants. Here's this week's big deal.
Get a $50 gift card, good for use, at La Fontana Coast in Sea Isle City for just $25.
This great deal is on sale now at seizethedeal.com. Hurry, chances are this deal will sell quickly. For more info on this great deal, go to seizethedeal.com.
SeizeTheDeal.com. This is South Jersey Sports Leader, 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. This is Game Night with Josh Hinnick.
It's good!
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
And he scored!
Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Josh Hinnick.
Josh Hinnick here on 97.3 ESPN. We got so much to get to here on the Power Hour. Here, of course, we got to get to Eagles and Bucs plus the football weekend, a busy football weekend in college and the NFL. All that and more coming up on 97.3 ESPN. Plus, Mike Golick Jr. will join me coming up in less than 20 minutes from now. As always, you guys can join the conversation at 609-403-0973, and your DMs are open to 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Before we get to anything else, though, as I wrote about at 97.3 ESPN.com earlier, the Eagles got good news today. Now, the biggest news came out before the injury report even came down, because after we haven't seen him practicing on the field, we had visual, tangible evidence of A.J. Brown on the field with the helmet on, doing warmups with the Eagles. This was a massive, massive news, because this is a guy who, one, told Lisa Salters on Monday Night Football he was going to miss a couple of weeks. Now, couple could be 2, 3. There's no, it's kind of like a general measurement. And when you saw him not on the field Wednesday and Thursday, we all, well, at least I thought, maybe many of you thought the same thing, which was, is he really going to be able to ramp up quickly enough to get on the field for Sunday? And you started wondering, all right, well, Devonta's not on the field practicing, and if AJ's on the field practicing, so if they're not on the field practicing, I'm going to assume that they might not be available. And now we get the injury report coming out confirming that AJ is questionable. So there is a legitimate chance that AJ Brown is on the field on Sunday. In the last 3 games for Philadelphia, when they did not have AJ on the field, they were averaging 15 points per game. So there is a huge diminishment in terms of this offense without AJ Brown. And in a world where Devonta Smith has been ruled out for this game, he is out. He has no chance of playing. He has not progressed quickly enough through the concussion protocol. Having AJ Brown on the field is going to be a big deal. Now, how does this change the game plan? Well, I think it changes it 2 ways. One, AJ Brown is been historically much better at attacking the ball than other receivers have. So when Jalen Hurts throws the ball, it is going to be in a better position for them to take advantage of a Bucs defense that will be without their best defensive player. That's the other side of the good news, as I wrote about in 97.3 ESPN.com. And of course, you can find out on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. No Antoine Winfield Jr. for this game. He is their best defensive player. Best defensive player. Hands down. I don't think it's a coincidence. When you look at this Bucs team, when they have their most success, their defense is operating at a high level. But coming into this game, they have no Antoine Winfield Jr. They have no Kalijah Kancey. He is out for the game as well. And now we get the news today as well that Vita Vea, who is their best run interior defender at stopping the run game, he is questionable for the game. So now you're talking about at least 2 very important players out for the game and potentially 3. And Vita Vea is the name I am watching for the most. I'm even keeping an eye on his name before any Eagles players, because whether A.J. Brown or Lane Johnson plays or not, because A.J. Brown and Lane Johnson are both listed as questionable on the Eagles injury report, Vita Vea is the key to me. Because as Chris Long said on the Greenlay podcast, the question coming into this game is the Eagles running the ball against the Buccaneers the way they were able to against the Saints last week.
Can you run the football, stay ahead of the chains? Because Vita Vea is coming back, but I thought there was some leakage last week. Maybe they can take advantage of some of that. The Eagles, they have an advantage overall up front, where Vita Vea can wreck a lot of games. Maybe he can't wreck this game.
And this is where I'm a little conflicted, because I was listening to Mike Gill on the Sports Bash here in the studio earlier on 97.3 ESPN, and he had TJ Reeves on. TJ Reeves is the Buccaneers radio network sideline reporter. And TJ Reeves brought up the fact that the Bucs, he believes their run defense is better than the numbers show they are, because they have been victimized by some big runs. The numbers say the Buccaneers are bottom 10 in the NFL in rushing yards allowed and rushing touchdowns against. And I go back to something that I heard previously. Greg Cosell was on the Ross Tucker podcast, and he talked about that Saquon Barkley looks better than ever. So Greg Cosell from NFL Films explained to us why Saquon looks the best he ever has.
With quickness, with suddenness, tremendous lateral quickness in confined space. He's not slowing down. He's able to re-accelerate when he gets through the first level of the defense. And that's a really important trait. I really learned that a number of years ago from a great conversation I had with the great Fred Taylor about re-accelerating once you get through the first level. And I think Barkley is running better than he ever has. And I think that needs to be the foundation of the Eagles offense and work off that.
So how do we offset this, right? How do we as football fans connect this divide here? You have someone who covers the Buccaneers saying to Mike Gill on the Sports Bash today on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennick here, hanging out with you in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios. He's telling Mike Gill, don't be fooled by the numbers. This Bucs defense is pretty good. But you have former player Chris Long and NFL Films Greg Cosell both saying, you know what? Saquon should be a guy that Philadelphia needs to lean on going into this game. More from Chris Long on the Greenlight podcast.
Becton, Juergens, that whole crew, the interior of that line especially, has really got to eat their Wheaties this week. They got to eat some big breakfast, load up, a lot of protein, a lot of carbs. Because this guy Vita Vea, he can wreck the game. If you don't let him wreck the game, you stay ahead of the sticks, you have answers for the blitz. That's the big one.
If you can neutralize Vita Vea, that's the big one, he says. And when you look at it, again, Vita Vea limited at practice all week with a knee issue. He is questionable for the game. So do we go into the game trying to stop him from wrecking the game so we can allow Saquon Barkley to take over the game? That is a huge question going in that I have. And I think one of my keys to the game is get Barkley going. Run away from Vita Vea or run at him. Try both of them, see what works best, and then ride the horse that is Saquon early. So to me, if you get that play action game going, then you're really taking advantage of a team without Antoine Winfield Jr., without Kalijah Kancey. You're taking out of the game the Bucs' strength, which is Vita Vea right now, and you're taking advantage of them with their two biggest weaknesses. I think that is one of the biggest keys coming into this game. Now, again, we don't know if AJ's playing or not, but what we do know is he was on the field practicing with his helmet on, and that's a great sign for the Eagles heading into the game this Sunday with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action starting at 1 p.m. right here on your home for Eagles football in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. Over on the text board, Jeff from Ocean City chimes in at 609-403-0973. Jeff chimes in and says, can the Eagles defense duplicate last week's performance? I'm worried about Baker Mayfield running around. Also hoping for a solid pick for the weekend. Well, Jeff, you'll have to wait till about a little bit later in the hour. I'll give you my picks for the weekend. But when it gets back to, you mentioned about Baker. Baker, he is not a scrambler because he's the greatest athlete. He is not a Kyler Murray. He's not that kind of mobile quarterback. Baker's a mobile quarterback to extend plays. He is the kind of quarterback who he treats running around a little like Aaron Rodgers does, or a little like Brett Favre would, where those guys scramble around because they need to keep the play alive, to get their guys to get open eventually. That's the real reason why in a situation like this, if you're Baker, you might need to scramble around. Now, I do think Philadelphia has the athletes and the players to limit him in doing that. But it gets back to what we saw last week, Jeff. You didn't have success with the pass rush because of Huff and Sweat and Nolan Smith coming off the edge like the freak athletes they are. No, it was Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Milton Williams, and the interior of the line wrecking havoc. So now, if Jordan Davis, Milton Williams, and Jalen Carter continue to wreak havoc in the middle of the field, how does that impact the edge on for the edge for guys like Huff, who's done nothing this year, Josh Sweat, who had one good half out of 3 games, and Nolan Smith, who is basically on a milk carton right now because we're wondering where he's been, because Brandon Graham is having one of the best years of his career early on at age 36. So I think the answer to, Jeff, your question on the text board at 609-403-0973, the answer to your question, Jeff, is, can the defense duplicate what they did last week? Yes. I don't think the Bucs offensive line is any way better than the Saints were. But my concern going into this game is if Baker Mayfield gets time to throw, how does that impact the Eagles' second and third level of the defense? We'll ask that and more to Mike Golick Jr. from DraftKings Network coming up next. I'm Josh Hennig, and this is Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. And don't forget the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
This is South Jersey's official home for Philadelphia Eagles football. The Eagles continue the 2024 season this Sunday in Tampa against the Buccaneers.
Mayfield back, he looks, he fires, and it's intercepted. It is intercepted. Coming up with it is Reed Blankenship.
Listen to all the action with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick with pregame coverage starting at noon and kickoff at 1 p.m. This is the play-by-play home of the Philadelphia Eagles. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's Eagles station.
Save thousands at Matt Blatt Kia. Get out of your old trade today, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Go to mattblattkianj.com for more details. That's mattblattkianj.com.
It's gotta be a
Matt Blatt Kia.
You might wonder, John Legend, how do you keep your voice sounding so legendary? Honey, And how do I keep my protection against COVID-19 up to date? With a COVID shot this season, designed for recent variants.
You can get your COVID-19 shot when getting your flu shot if you're due for both, as recommended by the CDC.
The fresher, the better.
Ask your healthcare provider about getting this season's COVID-19 shot when getting your flu shot.
Sponsored by Pfizer. Trust Jenkins Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, where one call does it all. For leaks, stoppages, and renovations. For 75 years, Jenkins trained technicians have been providing reputable service to local homeowners. Renovating your kitchen or bath? Call Jenkins. For new heating and air installations, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, oil service, plumbing and drain cleaning services, water line or sewer main repairs and replacements. Call 609-641-6262 or visit jenkinsandsons.com.
With Progressive, you get more than savings. You get access to us through our mobile app, online chat, or by phone.
Oh, I see what you're doing here, Jamie. Giving me all these ways to stay in touch so I have no excuse not to. Well, you're in luck, because this guy's in the market for a new BFF.
Actually, all our customers can contact us this way.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just kidding.
But I am always up for Taco Pizza! Jigsaw!
Get help from Progressive through the website, app, chat, or phone. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Fantastic fall offers have arrived at BMW of Atlantic City. Right now, lease a new 2024 BMW X3 xDrive 30i for $619 a month with $5,269 due at signing. Or lease a new 2025 BMW iX xDrive 50 for $699 a month with $6,419 due at signing. Both for 36 months at BMW of Atlantic City, closer than you think. Located in Egg Harbor Township. Online at bmwatlanticcity.com. Offers expire September 30th. For more details, call 609-316-2393.
Imagine your team always looking and feeling their best in high-performance technical workwear. Cintas can make it happen. They have garments for almost every job imaginable. And with the Cintas Workwear program, you get freshly laundered garments delivered every week for everyone on your team. Great garments without the bother of laundry. That's a real perk for employees. Find out how Cintas can boost team image and morale. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill is celebrating 15 years on 97.3 ESPN, and Bud Light wants to celebrate with you. This football season, you can catch all your favorite games at the Landmark Americana in Glassboro. Every Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, enjoy ice-cold Bud Light bottles and drafts for $3, along with $3 Hoop Spike iced tea draft in their famous mason jars, and $5 neutral vodka sodas. Celebrate 15 years of the Sports Bash with Mike Hill on 97.3 ESPN with Bud Light and Landmark Americana, Glassboro.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Progressive Insurance presents the Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN. The Philadelphia Eagles will head to Tampa on Sunday to take on the Buccaneers, both teams at 2-1. Tampa Bay eliminated the Eagles from the postseason twice in the last 3 years, with quarterback Jalen Hurts 1-3 against Tampa Bay in his career. Running back Saquon Barkley does lead the NFL in rushing. He has 4 touchdowns on the season. However, wide receiver A.J. Brown did not practice Thursday. He's been out the last 2 games with a hamstring injury. The Phillies are in Washington tonight, starting a 3-game set with the Nationals. This will end the regular season, with the playoffs starting next week. The Phillies are second in the NL, which would give them a bye out of the wild card round. Tonight, they will start Ranger Suarez. He is 12-7. Trevor Williams will go for the Nationals. He is 5-1. And in the NHL, the Flyers beat the New York Islanders 2-0 Thursday in preseason play. They'll host Boston on Saturday. I'm Tony Desiri, and that's your Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN.
Texting enrolls you in a recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
The team's looking good this season. I think so. Man, I miss playing football. Being young with unlimited energy to burn. Ever since I turned 40, I just can't find that fire I used to have.
Think you could be lower testosterone?
What do you mean?
All guys lose their edge when they turn 40. The body has less testosterone. That's why I take Nugenix Total T.
I've heard about Nugenix. That really works?
Since I started taking Nugenix, I'm lifting like when we played for Coach Carter. I feel more energized at work. It's even spiced up things between me and the missus.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try?
Yep, send a text. It's that easy.
Text GRIT to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. It's the #1 selling testosterone boosting brand at GNC and Walmart. Do it now and they'll also send you a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, their newest, most powerful fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text GRIT to 42424. That's GRIT to 42424. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Diving into the first full weekend of fall, the last weekend of September, and we will have thick clouds, cooler than normal temperatures, and some raindrops, but neither day this weekend will be a total washout. Pockets of rain tonight with fog likely, low temperature 68 degrees. Tomorrow stays cloudy and cool, high 72 with spotty showers likely. More of the same Sunday, lots of clouds, a few showers, high of 70. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
At Complete Care Health Network, their new men's and family health professionals facility in Williamstown offers preventative health screenings and primary care for the entire family with a focus on men's health. Schedule your appointment at CompleteCareNJ.org.
Tomorrow on Compass Media Network's coverage of NCAA football. It's a primetime showdown in the SEC as the second-ranked Georgia Bulldogs travel to Tuscaloosa to take on the fourth-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. Hi, it's Greg Daniels. Join Dave Archer and me for the SEC action as these two blue blood heavyweights clash under the lights at Bryant-Denny Stadium. If it's NCAA football, it's right here.
It's College Football Saturday on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
If they can go down here and beat this team, again, like last week was so gutsy, this might be just as gutsy. Don't have it be a letdown week. This team kicked your ass in the playoffs, and you need that same intensity. You're down 2 wide receivers. The O-line's back.
That was Chris Long on the Green Light Podcast, and I thought that point was very interesting. We'll get to it now here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. He talked about not having a letdown game, and I think that point is very significant because when you talk about a game right before the bye week, and I know the old saying, these guys are professionals, these guys are, supposed to not have letdowns. Like, I totally get all that. I understand where people are coming from. But there's something to be said for the fact that if you are a professional athlete, you are still a human being. You still have, the same hangups and flaws of any human being, right? And I think that's why, for me, when I look at Long saying something like that, I do bring it back to when he said this.
And for a guy that does not call plays, I like Nick. He doesn't call plays. There's something Nick's doing right because he won a lot of damn football games. And there's something Jalen's doing right because he won a lot of damn football games. And neither guy's been perfect. Turnovers have to stop for Jalen. But I think for a guy that doesn't call plays, if your thing is feeling the game and making decisions, those decisions have to be very good. And I think this week you're going to err on the side of caution.
Let's get more into that now. That was Chris Long for the Green Light Podcast. But now joining us on the phone line, it's Mike Golick Jr., the host of Gojo and Golick every Monday through Friday morning on the DraftKings Network. Of course, you get that wherever you get your podcasts, as well as you can stream it on your television like I do each morning. Mike, welcome back into the show. How you doing today?
Doing well. Appreciate you having me.
I appreciate you jumping on. So I was playing the audio from Chris Long before you came on. He's talking about how he's like, look, Sirianni's a winning coach. Jalen Hurts is a winning quarterback. But he says these guys, they got to be more cautious. Like, they got to stop making so many risks. So Mike is somebody who played the game and now analyzes the game. How do people who are making mistakes get out of the mistake mode and back into the better decision-making mode?
I think by over communicating and getting centered back on their identity, to Chris's point, it's fine being aggressive, but when it borders on reckless, that's when you start to see the lines get frayed. I always use Detroit as a really good example of all this because they've built that fourth down aggressiveness into the institutional model around there. You talk to every player, and I've had a chance to interview a bunch of those guys. My dad's called their games on Sunday nights and talked to those coaching staff. That is something drilled into the identity of who they are all off season. And so when you take those risks, you're not surprising anybody. And right now for Philadelphia, whether it's the quarterback being careless with the ball or Nick Sirianni being careless with some decisions, these are things that, based on the reaction that we're seeing and what appears to be a lack of a unified front there, doesn't seem like something that's been communicated to everybody. And so I think simplifying and over communicating are almost always the ways to get people back grounded in what you want to do and who you want to be as a football team.
You talk about, getting grounded and communicating, because we heard last week Vic Fangio, he overtly came out last week, Mike, and said, I got to do a better job communicating. I got to do a better job coaching. Well, that defense came out and went nuts down in New Orleans. I mean, they held a crazy offense to just 12 points. So at least we know one coach is communicating in the building. Is it possible that maybe just Sirianni has to look at Vic Fangio and Vic Fangio gives him a dirty look and he gets back to business?
Well, and I think that kind of is a good microcosm of what needs to happen and what we thought was going to happen this season, right? Where Nick would be a little bit more hands-off and let Vic Fangio handle things on defense, let Kellen Moore handle a little bit more on the offense. And we see instead quotes about how Nick Sirianni would sometimes kind of take over play calling in a way that, listen, might happen in more places and we just don't necessarily hear about it publicly, but to me doesn't sound like the kind of delegation that would be healthy for this Philadelphia squad at this point in time, because that's a perfect example on defense with Vic. What did he do? Communicated clearly with the guys up front who are incredibly talented. And what did we see? A guy like Jalen Carter go out there and lose all of that ability that made him the reason you drafted him when you did, despite some of the things that were on his ledger coming out of college. And so I think offensively, while, hey, you've been dealing with a little bit of injury, obviously, with Lane and some of the guys up front, you've still got incredibly talented pieces who, like last week with the addition of Saquon Barkley, can go out and still be the strength of your offense, even in a post-Jason Kelce world. And so I think, again, delegating the responsibility to the people you brought in and are trying to empower in that building makes a lot of sense.
Mike, you mentioned about empowering people. We know Saquon Barkley has been huge to start the year, and I'm trying to bridge the gap between, I hear guys like Greg Cosell and Chris Long say the Eagles need to run the ball. They need to lean on Saquon Barkley. And then I hear people who cover the Bucs say, don't let the numbers fool you. The Bucs are better than the numbers show their run defense. So, Mike, how do we bridge that gap when it comes to a game like this where you have the league's leading rusher going into a game in Tampa?
Yeah, I think for Tampa, a lot of their thing is personnel. Like, they've been dealing with injuries up front in the middle of that team. Vita Vea is one of the most unique and effective defensive players in football, and he's been banged up. Kalijah Kancey, one of their top picks in the last couple of years, has also been dealing with the injury bug. And so that's going to affect some of the numbers that they're probably pointing to there. And we know Todd Bowles is blue chip stock when it comes to what his defensive scheme and approach to a game is going to bring. But at the same time, I feel like for the Eagles, the beauty in their rushing attack, and the reason I think it can be effective against anyone, is one, personnel-wise, when healthy, they're a group that's extremely talented up front. And for a bunch of those guys have had time under task together. You're breaking in some new pieces this year. Obviously, we mentioned Lane being out certainly changes things, but in general, that's a group that's got guys that have been together playing high-level football, an incredible coach there as well, and a quarterback who's a value add in the run game. And I cannot stress enough, as a former O-lineman, how much that matters in the way that it can affect defenses that's different than a lot of others, especially at the NFL level. It's one thing in college. Everyone's got a kind of mobile quarterback in college almost by necessity because the rest of your team's usually not very good. In the NFL, we see more of them than usual, but not certainly as potent, and Jalen Hurts has shown in short time when he's been healthy in that backfield. And so all of those things, plus Saquon Barkley's talent infused to all of that we've seen, hey, he looks healthy. He's got that burst that we saw early in his career before injury started to affect the production in New York. And so I think all of those things make the Eagles ground game something I'm willing, and I think they should hang their hat on in this.
Talking with Mike Golick Jr., the co-host of Gojo and Golick, Monday through Friday mornings at 8 a.m. on the DraftKings Network. And, of course, it's podcasted wherever you get your podcasts each and every day. Mike, you mentioned the personnel for the Bucs. We know that Antoine Winfield Jr., he's been ruled out for this game. When you lose a guy like that for the Bucs, I mean, I got to imagine Todd Bowles is probably sitting back in his chair when no one's around, looking at the ceiling like, why did Antoine Winfield Jr. have to miss a game? Because you could argue he is their best defensive player.
Yeah, absolutely. And in a game where, because of how banged up the Eagles are in their skill position group, he becomes paramount. And so you could have gone from having a massive advantage there to now it being a little bit more of a question mark. So you're absolutely right. A player as young, talented, versatile, physical as Antoine Winfield is a massive loss for them going into this game.
Mike, big picture, I wanted to get your perspective on something in the NFL, because if you took Sundays and Mondays games and put the whole slate together, only two favorites won if you combine Sunday and Monday last week, there were a lot of teams who were underdogs. A lot of teams anybody had faith in. I mean, people I think were more admiring Andy Dalton's hair than his game going into that game versus the Raiders. But there were a lot of underdogs who won last week. How does that happen on such a large scale?
Yeah, well, I shout out to Peter Keating, who does a great job over at the Underdogs podcast that's a part of the DraftKings network, and Metal Art Media as well. They pointed out that underdogs, whether it's against the spread or outright, through the first few weeks of the season have had like the best record since the AFL NFL merger. So it's been unprecedented. I think there's a lot that goes into it. First and foremost, we know preseason has changed a lot in the NFL. Teams are playing their starters less. You can hit less and do less in practice. So you're just getting fewer reps. And as a result, you're getting sloppier football to start the season. We also know that defenses are working extra and overtime to keep big plays from happening. We've had the too high cover two defense conversation till we're all blue in the face right now. But the bottom line is we know scoring is down, which means the margin of victory is down, which means, hey, you got closer margins, so more teams are in the game longer, because the talent gap, even for teams and franchises that have been historically mismanaged, like the Carolina Panthers, there's still a bunch of NFL talent on that roster. And as we saw, all it takes is one guy being inserted to the lineup, or in most cases, and what I think we've usually seen is one guy being taken out of the lineup, a well-timed injury here or there, a player that was holding out in camp that didn't get the chance to gel with his offense the same way that they might have had they been around most of the offseason and content with a new contract. All those things, I think, can lead to a slower start out the gate for some good teams that still have new parts to work through, while everybody else, hey, on any given weekend in the NFL, isn't as far behind the top-end talent as we see at things like the college level.
The other thing I noticed from this past weekend, Mike, is if there was ever a question about the importance of coaching in football, I think it was kind of like shoved in everybody's face, because Malik Willis was basically sold for nothing. And then Matt LaFleur makes him a competent, good quarterback, right? Sam Darnold, he goes to Minnesota after sitting for a year with Kyle Shanahan, and he's now undefeated, right? And then you look at some of these other teams, like, for example, look what Cliff Kingsbury is doing with Jaden Daniels. Compare that to Caleb Williams in Chicago. And I'm not sure I throw dirt on a team like Chicago, but I think it's pretty obvious who the leader in the clubhouse for Offensive Rookie of the Year is here.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, you heard Justin Fields was on a podcast with Cam Hayward the other day and got asked point blank to rate and compare coaching here in Pittsburgh to the coaching in Chicago. And he didn't take more than half a second to say that Pittsburgh was the superior coaching that he had received. And there's the quote from Kevin O'Connell that's going around about how more organizations will fail young quarterbacks than the other way around. And it's absolutely right. I think this is a good opportunity to stop and reflect, because we talk so much about the Shanahan and McVay coaching tree, right? All these guys that have populated going back to that 2012 Washington team of him and Mike McDaniel and all these guys. And we all think that the magic in those guys is, oh, these innovative offensive schemes with all this motion and all the things that they can do. No, the real secret sauce for these guys is they're creative enough to say, hey, I understand things aren't always going to be static for our team. And so I can't just have my style of offense and then force anyone that comes into it to adhere to that style. I really have to curate something special. Look at Brock Purdy and the 49ers. He had none of the weapons that we're used to seeing Brock Purdy around. And I get that they lost that game to the Rams, but they lost that game on special teams. They lost that game with a couple poorly timed drops. Juwan Jennings had 175 yards. Brock Purdy had almost 300 yards passing and no interceptions in that game. He looked fantastic because, again, Kyle Shanahan was able to change things up. Yeah, we don't have the guys that can go get yards after the catch on every play. And so what are we going to do? We'll just dial up deep shots down the scheme, kind of like Mike McDaniel, that don't have as much run after the catch, but create space and opportunity. These guys and the best coaches in the NFL are the best at understanding, hey, forget year to year, week to week, I'm going to have different guys available to me, but I have got enough of a repertoire of plays in my arsenal to be able to curate something like we've seen Matt LaFleur do, like we've seen Kevin O'Connell do, that's going to go out and give us a chance to win every week.
Mike, before I let you go, I did have a couple things I want to ask you about college football, because, this Matt Sluka story with UNLV, I mean, it has literally been one of the most crazy things that I have ever seen. And I just want to know from you, when you look at a situation like that at UNLV, I mean, how does that impact for a guy like you who is sitting there, you're watching the college game, you're watching the pro game, you're trying to cover both, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, and by the way, the starting quarterback of UNLV says, thanks, but no thanks, thanks, I'm leaving.
It reminds me that one level in the NFL, like we may not always like some of the business elements of the NFL, but at least it's true to who they are, right? The NFL knows they are a big business. They operate as such. The players are employees. Sometimes we see like the contract disputes that we saw populate this entire offseason. It can get a little hairy, but there are rules to the game. In college football, they're lying about what they are. College football is somewhat professional football now. But no one around wants to admit it. Everyone who's been making money off the backs of this sham of amateurism for years wants to continue to try and pull that up. And so what you get is handshake agreements like this that a kid's agreeing to because they're too green and there's not enough help around them to let them know, hey, when you get an agent, when you get a deal, you got to get this stuff in writing. There's no one governing what goes on in college football. There never really has been. But now that the higher courts decided that, hey, these players could go out here and recoup all of the money that's available to them in this market, and we've seen there's plenty of it, it opens us up for a lot of messy situation like this where you get promises made that turn into promises not kept. And now players have decisions to make. They have real life business decisions to make. And for this quarterback, if we believe some of the reporting out there, that he was promised $100,000 and then that wasn't delivered on, while he's got a clock going off on his career. This ain't pro ball where these guys can potentially play forever. He's not a coach who can coach as long as someone's willing to pay him. He's got 5 years to play 4 seasons in college football, and he's got one of them left to make money because he's probably not going to be a pro guy. So it changes all of this, but again, it goes back to the central statement in this is college football has an identity crisis. No one involved in power is willing to admit what they actually are at this point. Big business, and that's the problem.
Mike, before I let you go, I wanted to know what was also your take as someone who played college football at Notre Dame at the highest level. What is your take on the reports that players in the locker room are kind of leaking it out there that, hey, we're better off with Williams or Friel at quarterback anyway?
Yeah, you know what? That's the other interesting part of this, and the part that even for me and Daddy have had this conversation all the time. You know, my dad played college football in the 80s, played in the NFL in the late 80s and early 90s, and so stuff never got out of the locker room back then. And stuff would change about that when I got in to start playing at big time, the college level. But it still wasn't like this where social media was so much the second language for all these guys that it'll always seep out. And you'd see plenty of instances like this in the locker room where guys are so willing to give up what's going on in there than not. But I think for this team, listen, they also didn't know this guy super well, right? He was there for a few months. He got there this summer, wasn't even in spring football with them.
Right.
And so there wasn't a bunch of loyalty either way, I think, in this. And now for these guys who are jilted, who are in the middle of a season where they're 3-0 for the first time since 1984, with all these goals still laid out in front of them, I can understand them feeling some type of way about what's gone on with them here, even if you have to look partially at this and say, hey, this is what happens. This could be me if I'm not careful with the way I handle my business. These guys still understandably probably feel jilted and want to make sure that the guy that stuck around with them feels the love and knows that they have his back.
He's Mike Golick Jr. Give him a follow on the Twitter X platform at Mike Golick Jr. Of course, he's the co-host of Go Join Golick every Monday through Friday morning on the DraftKings Network. And of course, wherever you get your podcast, he joins us right here on 97.3 ESPN. Mike, great stuff as always. Have a great weekend.
You too. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Josh Hennick here on 97.3 ESPN live in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios. Of course, the Fanatics Sportsbook is now at Ocean Casino Resort Studios at the Gallery. Bar booking games. Go to the Gallery. Go to Ocean. Go for the win. For more, visit theoceanac.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll check back in the text board. Coming up next at 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. And you heard me mention UNLV. Well, I got my sheet of all my picks for the week right in front of me here, and I'm letting you guys know the UNLV versus Fresno State game is on the pick sheet. Find out what that pick is and my keys to the Eagles and Bucs game this Sunday, coming up next on 97.3 ESPN.
The hunt for October continues on ESPN Radio.
Absolutely destroyed it. Pete Alonso.
The New York Mets are one of 3 teams fighting for 2 wildcard spots. And this weekend, they head to Milwaukee to face the Brewers, the NL Central champions.
Grand slam! Jackson Churiel. The Brewers have broken it open.
The Mets at the Brewers. Coverage begins tonight at 7:30 Eastern.
Listen to Major League Baseball all season on 97.3 ESPN.
Jersey Cow, a great place for the family to hang out and eat ice cream. At Jersey Cow, everything is homemade, small batch, right here in South Jersey with only the best ingredients. Enjoy Jersey Cow in Northfield and Brigantine with all the fall flavors, bringing back popular classics while introducing some future favorites as well. For the best ice cream with constantly rotating flavors, come taste the best homemade delicious ice cream made right at Jersey Cow. Visit every day from noon till 10 at both Northfield and Brigantine locations. Ice cream, a year-round thing at Jersey Cow.
What's better than 1 win? 3 wins. With Straight Savings, you keep your own phone, get 1 line for only $25 a month with real unlimited data, and get rewarded with a $200 phone credit after 12 months. It's a win-win-win. Head to Walmart or visit straighttalk.com today. Switch to Straight Talk. Less dollars, more sense. Straight Savings Plan enrollment requires compatible unlocked device and new line of service. Bonus device credit requires 12 months of active service. Offer ends if eligibility requirements are no longer met. Taxes and fees apply. For network management practices, see Straight Talk's terms and conditions.
Wake up. Breakfast. And Nature Made vitamins. Whatever your morning sounds like, Nature Made fits right in. Whether you're looking for vitamin C or a multivitamin to get key nutrients, we've got you covered. Now that's a good morning. We take care of you so you can take on your day. Start your day with Nature Made, the #1 pharmacist-recommended vitamin and supplement brand. Based on a survey of pharmacists who recommend branded vitamins and supplements.
Oh yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
New 2024 Nissan Rogue S, 0 down and 2.9% financing for 60 months. But when they're gone, they're gone. Have a trade? Bring it to AJ the Trade Man. He's paying cash, lots of cash, up to 120% more cash than KBB fair market value. Then drive home in your new 2025 Matt Blatt Nissan Kicks. Just $299 per month lease with 0 security deposit. And every new Matt Blatt Nissan comes with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy. Have a job clearing $450 per week at Matt Blatt Nissan? You're virtually approved today with 0 down and low 2.9% financing. MattBlattNissan.com. Unapproved Tier 1 credit for new Matt. Negative equity will be refinanced to the new vehicle. Plus tax tag and $589 fee. Offers can't be combined. Call 877-289-6670 or go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details. 24 months, 10,000 miles, $27.99 due through NEMAC. VIN RC 738396. MSRP 31,115. Offer ends 9/30/2024. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
Progressive presents Renter's MVP's Most Valuable Possessions. Today's MVP, Tom Kelly's carbon fiber mountain bike. Because more than riding his carbon fiber mountain bike, Tom loves telling people about his carbon fiber mountain bike. Friends, family, even a local barista knows about his carbon fiber mountain bike. And that's why Tom's carbon fiber mountain bike, if you haven't heard about it, is today's MVP. Keep your most valuable possessions protected by bundling your renters and auto insurance with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Febreze. So my home is also my office. And before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up and spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
Hi, it's Pete from Chickie and Pete's. Wrap up your workday with the all-new Chickies and Pete's Happy Hour with unbeatable specials weekdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Enjoy half-price orders of Chickies medium tender wings, one of our tasty and delicious pizzas, or an order of mouth-watering hot, cold, or fried shrimp. Plus $3 domestic bottled beers, $5 Tito's, and $6 seltzers. It's the all-new Happy Hour, weekdays 4 to 6 p.m., only at Chickies and Pete's. Hi, it's Pete from Chickie and Pete's. Now, for a limited time, it's buy one, get one free snow crab legs every Tuesday and Wednesday. Buy one, get one free, and enjoy the sweet, delicate flavor of snowy white crab meat. Pair it with one of our handcrafted cocktails like the Stoli Vanilla Creamsicle or the Bourbon Peach Sweet Tea. Top it off with Chickie and Pete's world famous crab fries. Buy one, get one free snow crab legs every Tuesday and Wednesday for a limited time. Restrictions apply only at Chickies and Pete's.
Now your ideas don't have to wait. Now they have everything they need to come to life.
Dell Technologies and Intel are creating technology that loves ideas, loves expanding your business, evolving your passions. We push what technology can do, so great ideas can happen right now. Find out how to bring your ideas to life at Dell.com. Welcome to now.
With GMF financing to qualify buyers excludes Traverse and Corvette excludes prior sales.
Stop! Yes, I said stop before you buy a car anywhere. Because right now at Bennett Chevy, you can save up to 20% off your new car. That's right. Bennett Chevy selling new Chevys at true GM supplier employee prices. Plus, and this is huge, you get to keep all the rebates. You can save up to 20%. And you'll save even more with financing as low as 0%. Yes, Z-E-R-O at Bennett on EVs. And there's available 1.9% on other models. Looking for used? Trade any old clunker for a minimum $10,000. We don't care how old or how many miles. Heck, we don't even care if it runs. Just get it here, and you'll get a minimum $10,000 towards any pre-owned in stock. And Bennett's exclusive non-commissioned sales team is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend, so you're never hassled to pay more. You're gonna love it here. Together, let's drive. Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Mom, meet Sarah.
From first-time Nana moments.
Yeah, welcome to Flight 101.
To annual girls trip moments. Your can't-miss moments are worth protecting against RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV. And there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com.
So where should we go next?
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Go to get your game on at the Gallery Bar Book and Games at Ocean Casino Resort. Cheers your favorite drinks while cheering on your favorite team. Get in on the parlay while in the middle of a party. Go for the sports scene and go for the endless screens. Go to the Gallery. Go to the Fanatic Sportsbook. Go for the win at Ocean Casino Resort. For more information, visit theoceanac.com. Must be 21 or older to wager or consume alcohol. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennick on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Before we get to my picks for the college football and NFL weekend, and we'll check back on the text board in just a moment. You guys can tell me what your picks are for the Eagles in the weekend at 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. My keys to the Eagles game, I mentioned one earlier, was Vita Vea. I think it's very simple. You got to slow that guy down. You got to take him out of the game. Yes, he is questionable. Mike Golick Jr. and Chris Long have both brought up the fact that, listen, he's a banged up player, right? So what do you do with a banged up player? You either got to run at him or run away from him. Either make him chase you down or overwhelm him so he cannot work optimally in the center of your line. You got to get Mekhi Becton on him, right? You got to get Landon Dickerson on him. You got to protect the center from Vita Vea in those run plays, those play actions, those RPOs, whatever the formation, whatever the game plan is. To me, Vita Vea, he is the best player who is still on the field for Tampa. Remember, no Kalijah Clancy, no Antoine Winfield Jr. So you got to now neutralize the only major weapon left on the Bucs defense. That's number one key for the game on Sunday. My number two key is Jalen Hurts. Get the ball in your hand faster. He has one of the lowest rates in terms of snap to throw in the NFL. He's got to stop thinking. He's got to stop holding the ball. He's got to stop, pondering what he's going to eat for dinner at night when he's in the pocket. He's just got to drop back. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, get the ball out of your hand. Be decisive. Now, I don't know if that's calling more slants. I don't know if that's calling more doing some different game plans or play calling in the game plan. But whatever the reason is, you got to get that ball out of his hands faster. The number 3 key of the game, do not let Mike Evans beat you. Mike Evans is one of the best wide receivers still playing in the NFL. And this is the guy who has historically had some games. I mean, Mike Evans is going to go to the Hall of Fame one day. Let's put it right out there. Okay, let's be realistic. The dude has put up already an incredible career, and he's only 31 years old, and he already has almost 12,000 receiving yards for his career. The dude already almost has 100 touchdown receptions. This man has had not one, not two, not three, but 4 different seasons, 5 different seasons with 12 or more touchdown catches. And if you go through the history of his career, you realize this man has had a lot of games where he has ruined people's hopes of winning a game by himself. 36 games in Mike Evans' career where he has over 100 receiving yards. 36 out of 158. You're basically saying about 20% of his games, he has dominated people. And his team has won a majority of those games. You got to limit Mike Evans. You got to not let him knock you down. And for those who are wondering, Philadelphia, for the most part, has done a good job against Mike Evans. But the couple games where he has had his best games against Philadelphia, including that 10 catches for 83-yard receiving game where the Bucs beat Philadelphia 27-21 in 2018, don't let Mike Evans beat you. You got to slow him down. You got to neutralize him. You got to take him out of the overall game. Because in Mike Evans' career, he is 3-1 against the Eagles in the regular season. And the only time they lost, where he had a pedestrian 5 catches for 60 yards. And what game was that? Oh, that's right, 12 months ago during the 2023 NFL season. So those are my keys for the Eagles against the Bucs. Of course, it's this Sunday. Mel Reese, Mike Quick calling all the action here on your home for Eagles football in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. Of course, coverage for that begins at 12 p.m. following Billy Schweim in the locker room. I'll be with Billy Schweim this Sunday at La Scala's in Brigantine, where we'll be broadcasting our Eagles pregame show. So I was at Doyle's Poorhouse in Tuckerton this past Sunday watching the Eagles game, and now you can join me this Sunday at La Scala's in Brigantine to watch the Eagles and Bucs. For whatever it's worth, the Eagles are undefeated when I am out somewhere watching the game. I was out with some friends Friday night to watch the Eagles-Packers game, and I was out for our event at Doyle's Poorhouse in Tuckerton for the Eagles-Saints game. So apparently there might be something to me either being out or it's just some pretty good coincidences going on there. All right, enough of the chitter. Enough of that. All right, let's get to the picks. All right. I know Jeff from Ocean City, he's blowing up the text board at 609-403-0973. I will get you all the picks right here, right now on a Football Friday. Let's start with the college football. I am 39-25 on the year so far on the college football picks. So we will try to make a dent here with some more picks this weekend. By the way, I want to mention, I got to stop picking Friday night games because I seem to lose those games all the time. So there's no Friday night games on this sheet, okay? Let's start with Penn State hosting Illinois. I think Penn State's going to win this game, but I don't think they're going to cover the 18 points. I think Illinois is a better team than people give them credit for. So I think this is a plus 18 for Illinois against Penn State and under the 47.5 in that game. Give me UAB to cover the 3.5 at home versus Navy. Anytime you have a home dog, I like those situations. especially when a team like Navy is not their best self. Speaking of the military, you know what time it is.
Stone Cold Lock of the Century. On the way.
Air Force trying to get back on track. They are going against one of the worst defenses in college football, the University of Wyoming. They have allowed an average of almost 40 points per game this year. Air Force is favored by 4 to win the game. I think Air Force gets back on track. Their offense is able to do more than 4. I think they win by a touchdown or more against Wyoming in my
Stone Cold Lock of the Century. On the way.
On 97.3 ESPN tomorrow, you can hear Georgia versus Alabama. I like the under 50.5. I think it's going to be a much closer, low-scoring affair than people expect. I also expect UNLV to cover the 2.5 points. I think those players are going to rally around each other. They're going to come out fighting, and they're going to beat Fresno State. It's at UNLV. Also, Ohio State and Michigan State, plus 23.5. And in the NFL, Eagles at Bucs. I like the under 42.5. I like Philadelphia winning that game 23-20. I think it'll be a close game, and Philadelphia will find a way to pull it out. It'll be a low-scoring affair as well. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night on 97.3 ESPN.
Saturday morning in the locker with Billy Schwein, producer Nick Earnshaw, former.
And for those of you watching on the YouTube channel at Josh Hennig, like, subscribe, share with your friends. So these are the picks that made it onto the stream only. So let's go recap the picks all over again and my thoughts on the games here. So in college football, we like UAB to cover the 3.5 at home, Illinois to cover the 18 at Penn State, and also under 47.5. Georgia, Alabama under 50.5. Again, I think it's going to be a close game. I think this is the game that Carson Beck gets most exposed on. I think at Alabama, they are a better team than people realize going into this year. And I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair between Bama and Georgia. I think it's going to be one of those, like, Alabama, they're probably going to win something like, 24-20 or maybe like a 27-21 kind of game. I also mentioned UNLV. Look, I think these players are going to rally around. They're no quarterback. Sluka, get him out of here. Put anyone else in there. The backup Williams, he is the all-time passing leader at Campbell University at the FCS level. So now he could come in here and basically run a similar offense and probably do it better than Sluka did. Ohio State and Michigan State. I like Michigan State to cover the 23.5. I think that number is way too big. Ohio State has not really played a lot of great teams this year. And I think Michigan State, they might lose by 20. But I think they'll lose by 24. I know it sounds crazy saying that, but it's just such a huge number. It's insane. As I mentioned, Air Force is my lock of the weekend. Wyoming, one of the worst defenses of all of college football. Over to the NFL, I am 35-27 on the year on the NFL picks. Let's get to them. I mentioned Eagles and Bucs under 42.5. You saw Philadelphia now. They have now had consecutive weeks where they have not scored a ton of points. Buccaneers also have consecutive weeks not scoring a ton of points. And as if you've watched my YouTube video recapping the Eagles win over the Saints, one of the things we talked about on there was the fact that styles make fights. I think we've spent so much time talking about Todd Bowles versus Jalen Hurts this week, we've forgotten about Vic Fangio versus Baker Mayfield. You think Baker's going to have a good day? You think the Eagles can't do what the Broncos and the Lions did to the Bucs the last couple of weeks? Of course they can. So give me the under 42.5 there. I like the Jets a lot at home, covering the 7.5 against Denver. I have said it multiple times. This is the inverted styles make fights, right? Just because Sean Payton is great against the Buccaneers in his career doesn't mean that he's going to be able to replicate what he did in Tampa against the Jets. Aaron Rodgers is going to take full advantage of a Denver defense that is streaky at best. I like the Steelers and Colts to go under again. I got to double check, but I think the Steelers are 3-0 this year when it comes to the unders. So under 40.5. I think the Colts offense is a lot of smoke and mirrors. I think the Steelers have arguably the best defense in all of football. And I think they cover the spread to 2 and give me the under 40.5 as well. Washington at Arizona. This is Cliff Kingsbury's old former pupil, Kyler Murray, versus his new protege, Jalen Daniels. I know these are two head coaches who are defensive backgrounds. Dan Campbell for Washington and Jonathan Gannon for the Cardinals. But I see points in this game. The Cardinals are scoring points in bunches, and so is Washington. There is no way that the Arizona defense is slowing down Washington in this game. Give me the over 49. I see it's like a 35-30 kind of game. I see points all over the place in this game. Chiefs give me -7 at the Chargers. Chargers are potentially without both their starting tackles. Justin Herbert has a high ankle sprain. There's numerous players injured for the Chargers. I think the Chiefs will go to Los Angeles. They'll beat the Chargers, and they'll have a nice flight home back to Kansas City. Finally, on the picks, we're going to go a little weird here, okay? I think the Dolphins are in a lot of trouble in this game against Titans. This is a situation where the odds makers, I think, are taking their cues from the wrong people, okay? So if you go look at the Dolphins this year, you will realize that the Miami Dolphins have struggled a lot this year, okay? They have struggled a lot offensively. Even when Tua was healthy, they were not a dominant team. Before the start of NFL Week 4, did you know the Miami Dolphins have scored the fewest points in the NFL? And the Jags are the third fewest points. The Titans actually have a solid defense. Dolphins team total under 18.5 points. And give me the Titans to outright win the game. I think the Titans get their first win. I think the Dolphins have trouble scoring points at all in this game. Again, they have scored the fewest points in the NFL this season heading into NFL Week 4. And the team that they beat earlier this year, the Jags, had the third fewest points scored. So the Dolphins apparently can only beat teams that score a few points. I think the Dolphins are a mess right now. I think they are way worse than people realize. I think that the loss of it's way more than Tua, okay? It's the loss of confidence on defense. When they lost guys like Andrew Van Ginkel and Wilkins on the front line, they lost some really good defensive players. And I think the offense is pressing. I think the offense is trying way too hard to compensate for those losses. And now with no Tua, you're hoping anybody can help you score points. I think it's going to be a rough day. So under 18.5 for the Dolphins team total. Thank you for watching on my YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, share with your friends at Josh Hennig on the Twitter X platform. I'll try to tweet where I can throughout the weekend. And again, I'll be with Billy Schweim in the locker room Sunday morning on 97.3 ESPN FM for our Eagles pregame show. And I will be hanging out to watch the Eagles and Bucs this Sunday at La Scala's Beach House in Brigantine. Thank you for watching. Have a great night and a weekend, everybody. And I'll catch you Monday for the next edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. And hopefully we can do a recap video after the Eagles hopefully win Sunday against the Bucs. Take care, everyone.